Hello again, friends, and welcome into another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right here on YouTube for Friday, March the 20th, 2026. Welcome in. First of all, in the next couple days, I'll be doing a video on Ted DiBiase Jr. being found not guilty of taking bribery money for kick, taking money for uh, inappropriate misuse of funds and taking money from the state of Mississippi uh, and using it for inappropriate things. But for purposes of this video, I want to talk to you a little bit of fun thing. Recently, I did a video on how and why I got involved in pro wrestling, and if you missed that, go back and watch that video on this channel. I'm not sure of the exact title, but I think it was how I got involved, or no, how I became a fan of pro wrestling. Well, accidentally left out one part of that. Way back in 2001, I found a North Carolina based indie group that's still running today called the Carolina Wrestling Federation, or CWF Mid Atlantic, ran by Jeff Rudd, who wrestled as the Gemini Kid for many years. Now he's still the owner of the promotion, but I think he's just a bad guy manager now. Well, back in 2001, I had emailed Jeff, didn't know who he was at the time, and told him that as many people as I knew in the wrestling business, I couldn't get anybody to let a real guy in a wheelchair, as I am. For those of you that don't know, I'm a guy in a wheelchair with cerebral palsy, which in CP, which in my case means I do not walk or stand. That's what CP stands for, cerebral palsy. You can only be born with cerebral palsy. You cannot catch cerebral palsy later on in life like you can MD or MS or any of these other diseases. You have to be born with CP, cerebral palsy. And if you're not born with it, you're not going to get it. It comes from a lack of oxygen to the brain during childbirth, and it affects different people that have CP different ways. I know people that cannot talk. I know people that cannot think correctly. I know many people with many, we all have CP, but it affects us in different ways. Having said that, my disability is real. It's not a wrestling angle. So I was trying to get people in the wrestling business to let me be a bad guy manager. And even though they had bad guy managers in wheelchairs before, the manager was always a regular guy who could walk that was pretending to be in a wheelchair. And at the end of the angle, he would jump out of the wheelchair and reveal that nothing was wrong with him at the time, or he would reveal that at some point and still come out in the wheelchair. They never had a real guy with a real disability like me as a bad guy manager in a wheelchair. So I emailed Jeff Rudd, explained all that to him, what I just explained to you. And at that time, my late and dear friend Don Kernodle and Don Kernodle's brother Wally Kernodle, who wrestled as Keith Larson and Rocky Kernodle in the wrestling business, were also working on the independent circuit at that time, even though Don and Wally had been top stars in Jim Crockett Promotions. They were working on the independent circuit because they were about to wound down their career. And Graham, North Carolina, where most of these matches took place, was only a hop, skip, and a jump from Burlington, North Carolina, the birthplace and the home of the late Don Kernodle and his brother Wally Kernodle. Wally still lives there in the same house on Union Ridge Road in Burlington, North Carolina. But the point I'm trying to make is Jeff Rudd knew Don. He asked Don about me, and Don said, Rusty's a good guy. If he said he can do the bad guy manager, he can do it. So I do have a video of it, but I can't post it here online because it's on DVD, and I have no way to upload a DVD to YouTube. But having said that, I got to play a bad guy manager 5 times in my upstart bad guy manager wrestling career 4 times for Jeff Rudd and CWF Mid-Atlantic in both Burlington and Graham, North Carolina. Graham being a suburb of Burlington, North Carolina. And then I got to do it 1 time for a guy that I now know to be a piece of garbage by the name of George South. Many of you might know George South. Don't trust him as far as you can throw him. He can't tell the truth. But at that time, it was George South's show was in Charlotte, and I lived in Charlotte, so it was easy for me to just leave home, go down, do the show. I got to do the show for free. I didn't get any money. George South never pays anybody. What are you talking about? But I was in Charlotte at the time. George South was in Charlotte. The show was at a local mall, so I went down and had fun. So I got to do it 4 times with CWF Mid-Atlantic and Jeff Rudd, and 1 time with George South. So I got to do it a total of 5 times. I played a bad guy manager in a wheelchair, and even had my head shaved when I had more hair than what you see here right now. The reason I don't have more hair now is not because of a wrestling angle. It's because of getting old and going bald. But I just wanted to add that to my wrestling fan days and my wrestling career and how I became a fan of pro wrestling. I actually got to be, because I never was going to be able to be a wrestler, but at least I got to be a bad guy manager in a wheelchair for 5 times. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns about that or any other video on this channel, past, present, or future, go back and watch some of the old videos. Most of it's pro wrestling, some of it's football, but most of it's pro wrestling. Go back and take a look at that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Tell your friends to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. And if you got any past, present, and future comments or concerns, positive or negative, please feel free to email me at rusty, R-U-S-T-Y, .loudermilk, LOUDERMILK, at yahoo.com. And you must put a dot between the first name and the last name. Otherwise, it's not going to go through. So that's rusty.loudermilk at yahoo.com. Or you can call me. Don't text me. Call me at 724-826-0449. Positive and negative comments welcome. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time for another edition of Wrestling with Rusty right on YouTube and Facebook. And until we meet again, my friends, as the voice of Ring of Honor and AEW, Ian Riccaboni would say, happy wrestling, everybody. Thank you for watching.